Good morning. I once again want to thank you for joining me on my daily dose. As we discuss spiritual things in just a moment, I hope that your mind will be focused on the Bible, and particularly today that you may go ahead and grab a Bible. The passage we're going to be reading together will be rather lengthy, and so I want you to see it for yourself if you at all possibly can. I believe that'll help our understanding as to what we're going to be speaking about here in just a moment. So far as the way that my health goes over the last few hours, really, it's been only yesterday since we did one of these programs, but things have gone fairly well. I was rather weak most of the day yesterday, but as the evening began to fall, and that's typically how it is, I began to gain more and more energy toward the latter part of the day. Some of the medications that affect me during the day, some of those things had begun to wear off, and so until it was time to take them again, I got some relief from some of those. And of course, anytime you can go and worship together with the brethren, such as the midweek Bible study we had last night at the Ironitan Church of Christ, you're going to be rejuvenated. I don't know how many of you realize it, but on those days when you feel the worst, maybe you feel like you just ought not make it to worship or Bible class, get up and go. By getting up and go, you'll not only be pleasing to God in His sight, you'll be acceptable in His sight, but in addition to that, I think you're going to find a level of energy, especially in that, maybe even a level of enthusiasm that you needed, and you're going to be uplifted by the brethren. I promise you, you're going to go home feeling better than you did. You may not be well, you may go home sick, but you'll go home feeling better than you did. So I want to encourage you to do that. You know, as I spent my time in UAB hospital every day, I look forward to the day when I was going to get to come home. Come home because I enjoy my home itself, the house, the land, the place in which I live, the family, the friends, the acquaintances that I have in my hometown. But more than that, you would well realize I want to come home to my family. I want to be here with my wife, my two children, be able to spend time with them, be able to do things with them that I'd been missing there for a couple of months as I was in the hospital. Now, that's not to say while I was there I was lonely, because at UAB Hospital I really found a lot of friendship and camaraderie between the nurses and doctors and the staff there. But it's just to say that I was still homesick. I wanted to be home with my people, doing the things that we do every day, getting back into a routine, if you will, and really beginning to live life the way that I intended on it being lived. And I think that we can understand that. As a matter of fact, I think that we can understand that in light of biblical principles and passages. For example, in Hebrews chapter 11, beginning in verse 8, you'll be familiar with this. It's a lengthy reading again, but the Bible says this: By faith, Abraham, when he was called out to go into a place which he should after receive for an inheritance, obeyed and went out, not knowing whither he went. By faith he sojourned into a land of promise, as in, watch it, a strange country, dwelling in tabernacles, and with Isaac and Jacob, the heirs of the same promise. Notice what happened in verse 10. For he looked for a city which hath foundations, whose builder and maker is God. Through faith also Sarai herself received strength to conceive seed, and was delivered of a child that was past age, because she judged him faithful who had promised. Therefore sprang there even of one, and him as good as dead. And so as many of the stars of the skies, and the multitudes, and the sands by the seashore were innumerable. Watch what happened in verse 11, though. And these, speaking of not only Abraham but others, all died in faith, having not received the promises, but having seen them afar off, and were persuaded of them, and embraced them, and confessed that they were, watch it, strangers and pilgrims on earth. Verse 14 continues and says, For they that say such things declare plainly they seek a country. And truly, if they had been mindful of that country from whence they came, that they might have had an opportunity to have returned. But now they desire a better country, that is, an heavenly. Wherefore God is not ashamed to be called their God, for he hath prepared for them a city. Now, friends, I'll admit, being in UAB Hospital, being in Birmingham, Alabama, I became homesick. I became homesick for my hometown, my city. I became homesick for something that felt more like my country. I'm a country boy, so going from the country to the city where I was different. I was homesick to find my friends, my family, especially to spend time with them. But at the same time, this is not my home. As we sing sometimes the old hymn, this is not my home, I'm just a passing through. My treasures are laid up somewhere beyond the blue. That's the way it ought to be for every child of God. Did you notice how many times he referred to them as looking for something else, seeking some other country, seeking another city? Especially in Abraham said that he looked for a city whose builder and maker was God. Friends, I pray today that as you go through your life, as homesick as you may be, maybe to be at home from work this evening or back from school, wherever you are, maybe out of town on vacation, you're ready to be home. Plan on getting to that home, but plan on moving on to your final home someday in heaven with God. That's the home that we seek, the one whose builder and maker is God. I pray that you're doing that. I pray that you're obeying God in such a way so that you can do that. This has been your daily dose, and I pray that you've been encouraged.